I don't know if you remember this place or if you heard of it, but growing up in the 80s and the 90s, there was this toy store. It was called Toys R Us. And I remember as a kid, when we would go to any other store, we would drive by Toys R Us. And I would always get that little hope bubbling up in me, like, oh, maybe we're going to turn. And, I would go and get the latest, Black Knight's Castle or Pirate Ship of Legos. I was totally addicted to Legos as a kid. But there was just that excitement of something new. Not that I wasn't happy with what I had, but now we're grown up, right? Do we still get that sense of excitement for something new? We have new hobbies, we have new toy stores, right? So we have board game stores now. But something that I see sometimes in discussions is this thought that there are too many new games now. Now it's just getting flooded and there's nothing new and exciting. But is that really true? I mean, let me know what you think, but what I thought is, I'm here at Cape Fear Games. This is my local board game store, and if you've been watching the channel, you know it quite well by now. If not, welcome. Glad to have you here. But we're going to take a look at the new arrivals, and I want to see, is there something that still gives me that feeling of excitement for something new? Howdy, and welcome back. I'm Mike, your board gaming every dude, and this is Cape Fear Games. This is a good spot to mention the sponsor for this video is Cape Fear Games, and what's nice about this is it gives you an opportunity to support the channel and a local game store if you would like to do that. So one way, if you're interested in any of the games that we're looking at, you can click the link in the description below. You can click the link in the pinned comment when you check out. If you use the code boardgames that's one word, you get 20% off your order. If you prefer to support the channel for free, that's wonderful. Just give a like for the video. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. I would love to have you here to hang out with us. Back to the game. Alright, let's start out with Islebound here. This is Islebound, the Emerald Edition. So the original Islebound, correct me if I'm wrong, was released somewhere around 2016. Same creators as Near and Far and Above and Below. And they're also putting out this Arzium RPG right now. So Jordan that worked here showed me this earlier, and that it at least says it's from the creators of Above and Below. So I'm assuming it's a shared universe role-playing game. So you got that as well. So they're going pretty heavy with stuff. But the Emerald Edition of Islebound, what it does is it's more of a variant of what Islebound is. And Islebound, from what I understand, I haven't had the chance to play it myself, is you're working as merchants, trading to build up your own city. And each building comes with its own special benefits that, of course, helps you to get points. And you're trying to build up the best city as the best merchant. And in the original game, there are books that you use. So what the Emerald Edition does is it removes the books and replaces them with emeralds, which plays differently. So it sounds like it also has some deluxe components. So it sounds like a special edition kind of thing, but it's called the Emerald Edition. So I'm not in the Near and Far and Above and Below universe enough that I'm kind of intimidated to get started with it because it's so big. But let me know what you think and what you know about that. And Islebound is $50. It is 2 to 4 players. Okay, and then we've got a Kickstarter edition and a fully painted edition over here of Mistwind. So this is a game of building trading routes. It's 1 to 5 players. The basic edition, or the Kickstarter edition, I'm sorry, is around $78, $79, and the painted edition is somewhere around $105 to $106 for the painted miniatures. So with the Mistwind, what it is you're building outposts in order to increase your trade routes, and the big thing seems to be the multiple ways that you're able to gain victory points. I believe there's up to 7 different ways to gain victory points. So it looks good. I'm not sure this is the one that I'm going to go home with today, even though it has the solo mode. I like the idea of the painted miniatures. There were a couple others that I looked at ahead of time that have caught my eye. Let's take a look at Creature Caravan. Creature Caravan, so this is from Red Raven Games, the same publisher as Islebound Above. This one actually really catches my eye, partially because of the artwork and also the theme. So this is $50 and it's 1 to 4 players. Always forgetting it. Oh, 1 to 6 players. That's an unusual, sometimes that concerns me, but that's an unusual amount to have that much variability. But I want you to see the artwork here. Quite lovely, and the theme is that there are these zombie swarms from the volcanic lands of the north that are encroaching, and I'm curious how that's going to play, because what you're doing is it looks like you are trying to shelter creatures and inhabitants, take them to a place of safety as the hordes approach. So super curious about that. And it looks like this is the deluxe edition because it adds the 5th and 6th player module. That's why. I was wondering. It's usually 1 to 4. So there's 45 cards added for the 5th and 6th player mode. Gotcha. Metal coins. Good time. All right, so we've got actually what is a war game here, but instead of the two sides going at each other in war, it's a political battle. So this is called Votes for Women. This is the Kickstarter edition, 1 to 4 players. It's running at $68. There are some good playthroughs of this. I know Antlab Games has a full playthrough. Now, for me, I'm just not super into political themes. I love historical themes. So I don't think this is one for me, but I've heard wonderful things around it. Designed by Tori Brown. Now, this one actually caught my eye before I got here. This is called Flatiron, and that's partly because I used to live in New York City. I started in the Upper West Side Manhattan and then went down into Queens, but I would pass by the Flatiron sometimes. I thought it was such a beautiful building, and I just loved that whole time period, the 1920s. I think it was somewhere around that area, the whole Art Deco thing. But anyway, this is a 1 to 2 player game where you are competing to build the Flatiron. So you are trying to build up the streets around it to give yourself special abilities, while you both, if you're playing 2 player, are building up the same building but trying to contribute the most. I'm wondering how that works for solo mode. You know, is it an opponent, an AI opponent, or are you just working against yourself with the game maybe trying to get in your way? I'm not sure yet. So Flatiron, this is $28. All right, have you heard of Survive? And I believe it's Escaping Atlantis or Escape from Atlantis. Well, this is Survive the Island. So it looks like it's a re-implementation of that. I was kind of curious about what they changed. I know in this you've got some volcanoes going off, and then you've got those, what are they called when it's Godzilla? The starts with the K. Kaiju. Thank you. You got the kaiju coming after you as well. Now, I am not actually going to pick this one up, but that's only because last month I picked up The Fog, which is a similar type of game where you have islanders or survivors trying to get off the island while a disaster is encroaching upon you. So if I hadn't just got that, I probably would be interested in this. However, The Fog has a 1-player option. Survive the Island is 2 to 5 players, and it is $29.99. Fun fact, it's a tropical storm or something somewhat close to that, so if the power goes out, oops. Alright, so we've got Cthulhu, Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown. I believe this is around $108, 1 to 5 players, cooperative, and this is where the characters are all working together to try to actually go mad intentionally, if I understand it correctly, in order to get the bad guys to appear so they can fight and defeat them for good. I'm personally not into Cthulhu themes, so that's just not going to be one for me. If that is, let me know what you know about it, or if you've gotten to play any in that series. That's Simon Games. Fairy Ring, this didn't have a 1-player mode, did it? Because this one looked interesting. No, 2 to 4 players. Otherwise, it looked almost like the game Bees by Van Ryder Games. I'm not sure if they're similar or not. It just had a similar look. So it's $35, Fairy Ring, and what you're doing is you are building up like a mushroom garden, basically a mushroom house for your different fairies. And it looks like action selection, where you are placing the mushrooms down and then placing your fairy on the different mushrooms to take actions. Let me know if you know something about this one. Lack of the solo mode, I probably won't be taking it home. Now, if you saw my board game collection video, you will see that I don't have a lack of party games. Even though I'm mainly a solo player, I love party games, and this one actually looked really interesting. I won't be taking it home just because of shelf space. Right now, I need to give some priority to classics and Euros, some areas where I'm lacking. You might think it's cool. 2 to 8 players, Cards versus Gravity Pro, and just look up some pictures of this one. It's like the cards have some sort of magnetic disc or something in them where you are stacking them on top of a bottle, but they're stacking out like way out in a tree kind of thing, and you're just trying to keep it from falling apart. Looks super cool. $22. Now this one I have seen some thumbnails for on YouTube. I haven't gotten to watch a video yet. Maybe I saw it on Instagram. So this is Charcuterie, the board game. This is 2 to 6 players. It looks like a pretty simple game. Nice and fun, about $39, where first you select the pile of food for the host, and then you get to choose whichever pile, and basically you arrange a charcuterie board for points. And based on how you place them and the combinations gives you the most points. While it's not a totally new idea, it's a proven design that works well, and artwork looks good. Doesn't make my heart skip a beat, but tell me if that interests you. Interestingly, Nikojima does really interest me because this is a dexterity game where you are building up power towers on the island of Nikojima, which means island of cats, not Isle of Cats, island of cats, and you are trying to keep it balanced. So you can play it cooperatively or competitively, and it's a little different from something like Jenga where you're stacking blocks on top of each other, in that this you are stacking poles, but the poles have cables or threads or yarn attached to them that represent power cables, and you need to keep those from touching as you stack. So if you're working cooperatively, see how that box is just falling over? Awesome. You're working cooperatively, you're trying to keep the tower going as high as possible, and competitively, of course, if it falls, then you're out, and it continues with the next players until elimination is done. Correct me if I'm wrong about the elimination part, but when I read up on it, that's what it was looking like. $36, Nikojima. Now we've got a social deduction game, and you know I'm a big fan of those, so this is millions of dollars, and I need to check if this is a reprint or a special edition, because I saw an older edition on Board Game Geek, but this is one where it is a hidden role identity, but it's not randomly assigned. You actually get to choose what your role is. But you're all a bunch of robbers, which I don't always love that theme. I do like playing the good guys. I do. So if it was just maybe the good guys doing something, I'd be into it. But yeah, so it's a non-random social deduction. $17.99. Finca, if it had a solo mode, this is the one that I would actually take home. It really appealed to me because we're on this island with a windmill that's basically an action rondelle. So that means it's just a big circle where you move a piece around to either gain a benefit or select an action on that circle as you walk around it. And that circle in this is the windmill. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on it. I haven't had the chance. All of these are new to me, so I haven't had the chance to play this one. That's Finca. $29.95, 2. How many? 5 players. See how fast I forget that. And finally, we've got Reef Project here. So this is 1 to 4 players, and this one is rating very well on Board Game Geek right now. This is $43.99, and it's a heavy box, so there's got to be a lot of stuff packed in here. It's got a theme that kind of reminds me of Daybreak, where you're, maybe we can call it a conservationist, where you're trying to save and repair the reefs. And it takes place over 2 phases. So I believe it's called the travel phase, where you travel around and you drop things in the ocean in order to find the reefs and do things to help it. And then when you take the refresh phase, which sounds kind of like what we would normally think of as a pass phase, except it's not a pass. In the refresh phase, you actually advance on the victory point track based on what you did during the travel phase, if I understand it correctly. So it seems like kind of a unique way to use a pass phase. Tell me if I'm correct on that. So this was an option to take home. I'm really kind of giddy about Creature Caravan, though. So I'm thinking that might be the one I grab. I'll think about this one. And of course, each month I like to check through the Kickstarter shelves to see if anything new has popped in. Now, I was told the last time, so please leave in the comments if you have recommendations, because when I come back, I'm able to follow up. But I was told to watch a video on Man vs. Meeple about Seas of Havoc for having a pretty good solo mode, and it actually does look really interesting. I'm not swayed enough to pick it up yet, but it looks cooler than I was expecting. A lot of these we saw last month, but there was one. I'm going to go over here. We already looked at Votes for Women, and we already looked at Creature Caravan, and we looked at Honey Buzz last time, and I put corrections in the video, but even though the box does not tell you, Honey Buzz Fall Flavors does require the base expansion. They use the word expansion once in tiny text at the end of a paragraph, but they don't say that the base game's required, and you should know it is. Let's go down, not Flourish. Oh, we've got Dungeon Kart, which I'm assuming is like Mario Kart, right? 2 to 8 players, $69. I have no racing games in my collection. That's right, I haven't played Heat. Everybody tells me to. I just don't have an interest in racing games, but let me know what you think. And of course, I regret having... Well, I don't regret. I'm glad that Unsettled is in a good new home with Mike at Sword and Board. But even though I think it plays best cooperatively with more than one person, it's such a beautiful system. So that's up there. And then, of course, we've got Frosthaven, which is just too much for me to get into, and one of my personal favorites, the whole Etherfields collection. And last thing I like to do before I officially select a game is I check the used game market, and y'all gave me some recommendations last time, so I'm going to see if they are still here, as well as the sale shelf. We'll check the sale shelf after. So I take you through a shelf at a time, and you tell me if there's something here that catches your eye. This is a new one for me right here, this War for Chicken Island. It has a one-player mode. What on earth is going down with that? That is interesting. Okay, we've got Among the Stars pops out to me each time. I tend to like Stronghold games. And interestingly, this Star Wars Unlock over here, I used to own it, and I traded it on before I got to play it, because I got it so that I could play with my buddy who's a Star Wars fan. Now, It's a Wonderful Kingdom. That might be a must-grab, the follow-up of It's a Wonderful World, and I believe it also has a solo mode. I'll have to double-check that, because I know It's a Wonderful World is like a solo staple. Venice is a new one down here. That looks interesting. All right, let's see what we got there. I know Rhino Hero, if I had kids around, that's a nice solid one. Space Odyssey, that could be interesting. But again, I'm looking mainly for good solo modes. Familiar Tales looks cool, but it's a big box. Kind of scares me. I do need to get Throw Avocado again, because I gave my copy away, which I'm glad to. Should be getting used. These are small boxes. What's going on here? Love is Dead. That interests me. What on earth is that about? And of course, Survive Escape from Atlantis, but now that there's Survive the Island, might want to check that one out. Moonshine Empire. So this is barrel-aged games. They also made the 1 to 2 player game Fortify, and I have been wanting to get my hands on Moonshine Empire. So I might look at that price and see if I can get that. That's 1 to 4 players, and you are basically traveling around to gather ingredients to make moonshine, from what I understand, down in the southern United States. Quelf, already got, great one. Trekking the National Parks, fantastic gateway game, already have it. Squid Games isn't my thing, but I'm sure IP-wise that's going to appeal to plenty. What do we got? Mickey and the Beanstalk. The Others. Looks kind of fine and scary there. Maglev Metro, I've seen this here a few times, and even though it's got that Euro vibe, it just hasn't spoken to me enough. Petra fascinates me. I used to love reading books about ancient kingdoms as a kid, and Petra was one of those. All right, Tainted Grail is probably my copy. Hoping somebody grabs that. And Fireball Island, if it was the base game, I would certainly grab that. Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig, I believe that's the expansion, or I believe it's a roll and write or flip and write. It's something in write. And up here, looking about the same, creature feature. I like the font. And puzzles, I don't do puzzles. And then, of course, we have our sale shelf. So I'm not seeing the one that was recommended to me last time, the Red Cathedral expansion there. Longboard, that's a new one for me to see. They've been selling out quite a few of these. That's great. Let's see, Explorers. Rebuilding Seattle, that is what somebody recommended. So let's see. It was discounted as well. Let me see the price real quick. All right, so it's a city builder with a 1-player mode, 1 to 5 players. Lovely looking art, $44 with 20% off. It could fit that drier Euro type game that I'm trying to get, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Sometimes drier for me is actually nice. It's a nice change. So that's very possible. And then we've got Skyward. That's some beautiful looking art there. What's going on? Competitive card game, 2 to 4 players. Innis. I'm just waiting for it to keep going down. Somebody will grab it first. 3,000 Scoundrels, even though it doesn't have a 1-player mode, I'm almost tempted to get just because I'm a fan of Unexpected Games. I think they do cool stuff. Corrosion, neat, but it just didn't make me feel crazy. There we go, and we're getting to the end here. Kanban EV. Nightmares every time I see it. Aquatica I have to try. But seriously, people love Kanban EV. It's like the staple Lacerda solo game. Just not for me. Alright, so after looking through everything, What do you think? Do new games still excite you? Do you still get that giddy feel where you want to go to the store and check out the new toys? I'm going to go back through the games now and pick the one that excites me most so I can take it home and unbox it with you. 2 hours for me, a microsecond for you, and we are back home. I probably mistitled this video. It should be, Are There Any Fun Old Games? Because I brought back a bunch of old games, but actually I was excited by a new game, and we will get to that at the end. This is It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Look at the beautiful artwork just in the instruction book. The reason that this one interested me is I have heard about It's a Wonderful World, which looks more like business, like a dude in a suit or something. But I heard it's really cool for its solo play. It's a Wonderful Kingdom, if I'm correct, because I haven't looked into it yet, came later. And so I wasn't sure when it said legendary as well. Like, is it an expansion? It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's just a special box for It's a Wonderful Kingdom. So this is a legendary edition. You can see it's got those lovely wooden house meeples. Those must be the player guides. Again, I know Zippo about this game to this point, but look at those lovely houses. Okay, now the cards, again, it's hard when I'm unboxing because I'm just kind of guessing at what things are, but I will say the art is quite astounding. I'm not totally catching it in this lighting here. I'm still working on the lighting, and I wonder maybe if I have a black cloth instead of chalk. Look at that spread. Anyway, that's a lovely spread right there. Look at that. Okay, so it looks like they all have attributes and costs, standard card stuff. Are there different kingdoms? Tell me if you know anything about that. I love the backside of the black and the gold is absolutely lovely. Now, when we got to this, okay, so I'm a little afraid of these because I don't think this is a legacy game, right? It doesn't say do not open these boxes. So unless you tell me do not open these boxes, I'm going to open these boxes. So if I wasn't supposed to, and I'm ruining this for myself or anyone else, it is not my fault. I do not take responsibility for that action because there was nothing telling me not to. So why? They're lovely cubes. They must be resources. I don't know. But why are they in boxes? I also normally would put these all back in the bags off screen, and I decided, you know what? We're here. We're here. I have a captive audience. We are doing this together, and you will enjoy it. That's right. And I will too. So look at that. Get all those cubes in there. Oh my goodness. So why are they in the boxes? I don't know. I do like them, and I love the colors. They're just your standard plastic. They're not like, I don't think they bounce or anything like that. But then there was this other bigger box, and I was like, okay, so it's got art. I don't think it's stickers on these wooden coins, discs. That's what we're going to call them. Wooden discs. That's right, with all the cards. Putting everything back in, it fits together nicely. Now, here's what I wondered. Now, I love these metal coins, but there's like 8 of them, which is great. But how are we going to have a wonderful kingdom on a maximum of like 8 coins? Unless maybe this is a game of trading economy and we don't do money, because I'm thinking people are going to be upset with me, right? Like, we've got 8 coins to go around, folks, putting it together. But don't worry, it's not over, because you know what I forgot? A marker. Yeah, that's right. Actually, I forgot something else, but I'm not going to make you sit through that when I open it again. It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Super excited for that. Flashpoint is a cooperative game, and this house just makes me happy. It makes me think of the 80s, of like video games where you were running around in a house in that exact layout. So it just makes me happy. But this is a cooperative game. It says 2 to 4 players, but since it's co-op, I can still play it solo. Whether that makes it a good solo or not is another matter. But I have been wanting to try this for some time, and it has several expansions. Didn't pick up any of those. By the way, I got that legendary It's a Wonderful Kingdom was $20, I believe. Secondhand, of course. I love secondhand. Flashpoint here, also, I think maximum $20. And the It's a Wonderful Kingdom was pre-owned by someone. This is the Cape Fear Games, their library that they keep for people to play games at the store. You know, they have to kind of move games in and out so they can put newer ones in. This was one of those. All these little fire tokens. How do you play it? I don't know. I'm thinking the building's on fire. You have to save people. I can't tell you these things. There's the peeps. There's my player tokens right there. So when you're cooperative, do you have to play as all of them? Tell me if you know. Lots of people have played this. And of course, your fire and smoke indicators. We understand. Maybe it starts as smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know what the ambulances and the trucks do. Do we drive around? They look kind of small. I don't know. But anyway, you got your different player cards with your little badges, and it looks like different player types as well. Different firefighters, different names. It looks like maybe they have different strengths and abilities. It looks like there's some EMT workers. Let's not forget about our EMT bros. Okay. And brolettes. There we go. So, Flashpoint. Now, this one has got my eye because of it's known for its like deduction. You know, it's a deduction game where you're trying to find Planet X through deduction, but it is a 1, 2, probably 4-player game, which the board is not what I expected. It's a circle with 4 colors, I'm assuming for the 4 players. Or maybe there's 4 elements. Is it cooperative? I believe it's cooperative. There's those 4 colors again, I don't think it's just that maybe it's the players, maybe it's the resources. I don't know. Somehow, you're supposed to be uncovering information to be able to deduce where Planet X is, right? So yeah, the different all the colors with the different bases. So I'm interested how they all work together. Are they asymmetrical? I think they are. They have different art, but the instructions on the screen seem to be pretty similar. Looking forward to a much more detailed look. What does the disc do? I don't know. And then, of course, our score. Oh, that must be where we get our information and log the information. So, not a lot of parts to this game. It must all be gameplay. Interesting. Nice box cover, though. Now, Arctic Scavengers. I picked this up because I know nothing about it, and I'm not super into high-action games. But this one looked like it had a bit of a survival aspect, so it does interest me. I did not know that it was so much of a card game. I had absolutely no idea, but it clearly is a card deck game. Look at that. It's all cards. And they're sleeved, like nice sleeves. So this was also like $20. Search for Planet X, I think it was like $20. Maybe it was 25. Maybe it was 15. They were all between $15 and $25 secondhand. But this one with the nice sleeves, I have to check into it. As I'm unboxing this, have absolutely no idea what's going on, other than there are different abilities and items, you know, things you'd expect from a card game. Is it a deck builder? I don't know. It's our new game. We made it here. That's the one I got. Creature Caravan. Look at it. Was it mainly because of the art? Actually, no. But that was a big sell. The idea of these hordes invading and you just trying to save the critters on this caravan, as many as possible, actually is appealing to me. It's a theme I've seen now in several games, like, you know, the fog. Get as many people off as possible in order to save this. We got a map. No, it's not what you play on. Don't worry. It's just a cool, fun map. I do believe this said Kickstarter edition, so I don't know if that means there is another edition or if that's the only edition. But there's going to be a lot to punch out with these boards that I believe make a long horizontal board that you're like trying to make your way down. I'm not entirely sure, but I watched a Dads and Dice playthrough while doing something else, so I have no clue what's going on other than lovely metal coins, and they're kind of rounded too. They're pretty heavy. Do not drop these on yourself or anyone else. They could suffer damage and you could face a lawsuit, and we don't want that around here, or at least I don't want to be held accountable for it, for not warning you ahead of time about that. Now, these you could drop on yourself or someone else, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay with these little wooden cubes in all these different colors. Why do we need that many? Must be the resources. And then these little cubey things, are they cubies? Are they dices? I can't tell you. All of these things, honestly, are safe to drop on yourself or someone else. My concern is like bread or something, bread tokens. But my concern is, if you are so inclined to do that, I'm I'm wondering, maybe you shouldn't play games with others if you're inclined to do that. But then if you're dropping it on yourself, that is also an issue. So anyway, back to the tokens. These ones do not step on. I believe that would hurt. It would hurt the token if you're wearing shoes, and barefoot would be unpleasant. And these, I was trying to figure out, like, what are these little zapper things? Are these little zombie hordes? Are those the zombie monsters? I don't know. But they all go back in this big giant bag, which kind of bothers me. I don't like a bag within a bag. All right, let's look at our player boards. Look at that beautiful art. From what I can tell, they really look similar. That was fast. Boy, when you speed this up, it sure is fast. Oh my goodness. So, recently, oh, look at that spread. I love it. I love it. Good job. But anyway, lovely art. But I was opening cards for a newer game. I think it was the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. No, it wasn't. It was another game that I can't remember. But anyway, it had paper wrapping instead of shrink wrap around the cards. And you know what? I prefer it because I'm not going at it like a wild raccoon, which nothing against wild raccoons. They're adorable, but they have no business opening cards because they might damage the cards, right? Rabid, raccoon, well, they don't need to be rabid, but raccoons shouldn't be opening our cards. Anyway, that was the moral of the whole thing. Is everything gonna fit back? Is it? I think so, partly, maybe. And that's a wrap. Thank you all so much for sticking around with me. I love you all. I'll see you next time.